If America is a country of immigrants, African Americans are a people of two migrations. For the first migration, there was the voyage from Africa into slavery. The second migration was the move away from the country's southern states with their farm economy and more open forms of discrimination. If the migration north and west sometimes fell short of its promise, one result was a crowning jewel of African American and national culture, the Harlem Renaissance. Our guest has written a stage work that brings the time and place back to life. It's called The Harlem Renaissance Revisited with a Gospel Flavor. There have been several performances in Boston, and the next will take place August 10th in the Salvation Army's Kroc Community Center in Dorchester. We'd like to welcome Haywood Fannell, Sr. Thank you very much for being with us, Haywood.
Hi, Chris. How you been?
Well, talk about how you started writing this, because this is, I guess, a totally different world from the heyday of the Harlem Renaissance.
Well, it is. And I was living in a shelter on Long Island here in Boston, run by Pine Street Inn, when I got the idea to write a play. And I wrote a play and had some folks to perform it. And then afterward, I asked them, can we make a play out of this? And they said, oh, sure. Oh, definitely. So I did some more research. And I came up with some fantastic information about these people of the Harlem Renaissance. And it's not just black history, it's American history. It's about triumph over social injustices that could happen to anyone. And it's about a people that in less than 60 years after the Emancipation Proclamation found themselves on the stages of the world, going to Harvard University, getting education, developing their music. Duke Ellington, Ethel Waters, Madam C.J. Walker, a woman that had passed just before the Harlem Renaissance, but she had a vision, and we have embellished her role and have included her in our play so that other people can get this information and become inspired and empowered.
Well, the Harlem Renaissance wasn't even so much about people coming to New York and getting cultured. There are things that all of these figures they brought with them. Zora Neale Hurston, Langston Hughes, they got that from their parents too. When they grew up.
These were gifts that were hidden during the time of capture, because I never say we were slaves, because we're the only people that came to this country from freedom to capture. Everybody else was, politically persecuted, religiously persecuted, coming out of jails and stuff like that. But anyway, they hid their talents. And there was an explosion, not just in New York, because they had a large concentration of blacks, but it was in Philadelphia, Kansas City, Charlotte, North Carolina, Boston, Massachusetts. So it was a social phenomenon, if you will.
Well, this is also a sort of a change in direction for black leadership, because before that it was more that people wanted the right to be, I guess, like white people, whereas in the Harlem Renaissance, these were people who wanted to turn inward more, to celebrate being black.
Themselves, yeah, of course, to be themselves. And that wasn't easy, because they still had Jim Crow, and Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, and Conte Cullen would still meet up on what is called Seville Road now, up 138th Street, between 7th and 8th Avenue in the brownstone houses, and they would meet on Sundays, and they would read each other's works and encourage each other. Some of them went to Europe to pursue their talent and were successful and came back to America because they knew that Europe was not their home.
And it's interesting what happened when people went to Europe, because the way your play unfolds here, you've got Langston Hughes coming back.
Yes, he's coming back. He's denouncing America, the land of his birth, place of his sorrow. He can't get read. He can't sell a book because of the color of his skin. So he feels that if he goes to Europe, he'll triumph. He'll come back. But there are others that say, Langston, you don't need to go to Europe. We helped build this country. You can stay right here and do it and become successful. He says, I'm not going to stick around for somebody to turn my dream into a nightmare. And he went to Europe and he was successful. And there were a lot of other people, Josephine Baker, that went to Europe, and she became the Belle of Paris. And there were a lot of other people that went to London. Florence Henderson, a dancer. Richard Wright even went there. So, we did have a group of intellectuals, entertainers that went to Europe, but it wasn't home. It wasn't at home.
So this takes place in a speakeasy, right? Because this is during Prohibition.
Right, Miss Evelyn's place. Miss Evelyn is a lady that she too has a dream. She wants to have this big club, and Madam Walker again is having a party at her place to welcome Langston home. And Ethel Waters is there, and she wants to be a singer, and she goes to audition for the Cotton Club, and they tell her that she's too dark. And everybody, you know, rallies around Ethel, say, don't go for that, Ethel. Don't go for the skin game stuff. You know, and they encourage her collectively, and she gets the spirits back, and she says, that's right, I'm going to sing, and sing she did in later years.
This was a strange time and place because in Harlem, you could have these wonderful performers with a segregated audience, and you'd have people coming from Europe to sample this and enjoy it.
Yeah, you had a lot of white supporters for the Harlem Renaissance movement back then. And you still have a lot of people that enjoy the Harlem Renaissance and the revelations that it brings, because a lot of the things that are happening today from the Harlem Renaissance, social injustice still remains. Skin color plays a part. Even in our own culture, it plays a part. So what we're trying to do is to connect people to their history, you know, so that they can know their future. And it can be very bright if you know, look at some of the things that were accomplished.
Tell me a little bit what you've got planned for. This is going to be at a fairly new and a large facility in Dorchester.
Oh yes, a wonderful, wonderful facility, almost brand new. You know, the ticket sales are moving right along. The lighting, the sound, we have a professional technical staff to make that happen. A retired Channel 5 technician, Mr. Leroy McLaurin, he's going to be there and helping us supervise all of that. And we're going to create a DVD that we can segue, hopefully, into the school system, because they need to have our history in the school system.
I know you'd like to have parents bring children, and I guess there's a comparison people sometimes make. They say because Langston Hughes was also involved, this is a little bit like Black Nativity, I guess.
Well, Langston Hughes wrote Black Nativity.
I know, that's why I brought up his name. Yes,
yeah,
yes,
Langston Hughes wrote Black Nativity. Yeah. But this is our history. Langston is a part of our history. He's not all of our history. Black Nativity is one of his great works. But so is Mother the Sun, one of his poems. I've Known Rivers, the first poem that he wrote. Then Simple and Simon, you know, those two guys, you know, they were.
So if anyone would like information about when and where and the tickets?
You can get your tickets from Anubia Notion or call 617-966-9594.
And what time is this going to be in the day?
It's going to start on August the 10th at 6:30 at the Salvation Army Kroc Center at 650 Dudley Street.
Right next to the railroad line. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Haywood Fannell, Sr.